reading today is from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 13 through 20. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. People do not light a lamp and put it under a bushel basket. Rather, they put it on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven.
So I've been thinking a lot these days about light. And I don't know if it's because we're at that point in the winter when it's been dark for so long and cold, and I'm feeling a little miserable all the time. And or maybe it was Theo waking me up the other day to ask me what a photon was. Either way, I just want to make sure that you all are taking your vitamin D. Everybody here have some kind of supplement, because I'll tell you, in the Northern Hemisphere, even if you spent all day outside, the sun does not have enough ambient radiation for you to get sufficient amounts of vitamin D, so you do need to supplement it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But that is not what I wanted to talk to you about today. Today, I want to talk to you about the color magenta, and specifically how it does not exist.
What? Sorry.
Yes. I'm so glad you're here, Keela. I thought to myself yesterday, I really hope Keela is here. Keela and Candy, because I think you both immediately at the beginning of this are going to be like, this guy's going to try to ruin something else for me. He already tried to ruin rainbows that one time. But I guarantee you, this is not one of those sermons where I ruin something that you love. I hope and pray that by the end of this, you will further appreciate something. I promise I'm going somewhere with this, okay? So all around us, all the time, whether you can see it or not, there are subatomic particles called photons whizzing all around you, okay? Fundamentally, they are all the same. But some are vibrating slow, and some are vibrating fast. Remember this from science class? Anybody? The electromagnetic spectrum. Yes, you did not come to church today thinking you were going to get a physics lesson, but here we are. All photons are basically the same, just they wiggle at different speeds. Okay, that's all it is. They're just shaking, they're just vibrating at different speeds, like the strings of this bass. If they vibrate faster, we call it higher frequency. If they vibrate slower, we call it lower frequency. And that's the only difference between all of it. Down here, the ones that are vibrating super duper fast, we've got gamma rays. This is what gave us the Incredible Hulk. All the way up here, we've got radio waves that are really low and slow. This is what will one day give us Phillies games when this long, cold, awful, dead winter is over. This is actually the reason why when I lived in Chicago in 2004 or 2004, yes? 2008, when the Phillies won the World Series, and I was living in Illinois at the time, and I could park my car on clear nights and listen to AM radio and hear Harry Callis in the Panera parking lot, because these wavelengths are so long, they can travel so far. But every single color that you have ever seen exists right here. This is all that we can see. Okay? We can't see microwaves. If you look in while you're heating up your Hot Pocket, you don't see anything bouncing around in there, right? Because our eyes can't see microwave radiation. If you take your remote control and point it in your eye, you don't see anything. You don't see the X-ray machine. All we can see is this itty-bitty, tiny little spectrum of electromagnetic radiation that we call light and color. And it's kind of amazing if you take a second to just soak that in, looking at this expanse of this spectrum, that every single painting that has ever moved you, every single photograph that you have seen and been wowed by, every sunset, every flower, every butterfly wing is just in this itty-bitty, tiny little spectrum in the middle of this electromagnetic spectrum. And our vision, it's not even that good. Like in terms of the animal kingdom, we have 3 color sensors. Mantis shrimp have 16. They can see colors that we can't even conceptualize. Even goldfish have a farther spectrum than we do. They can see heat. Isn't that cool? But I'm not telling you all of this to insult humans. But I'm telling you this because of the magic of magenta. Okay? So, like I said, our eyes see all color because we have 3 color sensors. Okay? And those color sensors sit at the beginning, middle, and end, roughly, of this visible spectrum. It's not exact, but I'm going to pretend like it is. So you've got like your blue sensors, your red sensors, and your green sensors. And all it does is that when a photon that's jiggling at a certain frequency lands, your blue sensor goes, oh, we got a lot of blue, and we got a little bit of green, and we've got no red, so therefore it must be somewhere here in the cyan category. And then your brain says, boom, cyan. Okay? We're able to sort of triangulate using those 3 sensors what color it is, where it is on that tiny spectrum, and then your brain says, we're going to make it look like this color so you can differentiate between all these different things. Very useful for knowing, when an apple is spoiled or not, or all of the other ways that we need to know color. But here's the thing. What happens if you see a flower, and that flower is reflecting blue light and red light, but not green light? What if that flower's petals have absorbed the green light, and the photons that are coming back to you are red and blue? Now, normally, your brain would take the signal and then would find the average between them, and then would give you that color. So the average between red and blue is green, but the green cone is not firing. So your brain knows that it can't possibly be green, but because it's finding the average between the two, it should be green, but it's not green. But it is green, but it's not green. It's an impossible kind of color. So what happens? What does the brain do when it's met with this paradox? It needs to communicate a color that is somehow paradoxically both blue and red, but not what is in between them. So it invents magenta. It creates magenta. Magenta has no frequency on the spectrum. You will not find magenta on a rainbow. Magenta is a color that turns the flat spectrum of the rainbow into a color wheel. A color that holds both truths in their fullness without giving in to the temptation to dilute it into this unfortunate greenish compromise. Instead of a dull gray, like you can imagine if your brain is sort of short-circuiting, it might just give you like a fuzzy color, a gray, a brown, or something like that. But instead of that, your brain gives you gorgeous magenta. Your brain has decided that if you're holding a paradox, you are going to get splendor, glory, brilliance, in all of its binary busting beauty. So magenta is not real. It has no corresponding frequency, but in some ways, it makes it better, unique, and something that I think we need more than ever right now. As we read earlier, Jesus gathered people together on a mountaintop. And he somewhat indiscriminately said to people, "You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. People do not light a lamp and put it under a bushel basket. Rather, they put it on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." Light serves so many purposes. And many of you are already shining brightly where you are. I'm so proud to be among you, friends, and to call you my friends, because you are people who are illuminating the darkness all over the place. You are shining light in the places where people are intentionally trying to do evil deeds in the darkness. You are shining a light onto dark paths to show the way for people who are stuck in tricky situations. You are a beacon, a lighthouse, shining brightly, calling people from the surrounding areas to come and find safety and refuge and healing, to find love. You are already the light of Pottstown. And I don't see you as the sort of people who are in danger of hiding your light under a bushel. But I wonder, what frequency are we? What kind of light are we? I would challenge us that when all of the bright light sources out there are shining either their blue or their red lights, claiming to have the full truth contained within it, that we be magenta. That we be a magenta city on a hill. That we find a way to contain impossibilities, to hold paradoxes, to take the binary choices on the spectrum and instead create a color wheel. That we, like Jesus, find a way to embrace both justice and mercy, transcendence and immanence, greatness and servanthood, truth and grace. I mean, just look at how we, as people, generally tend to handle rules, religion, laws. People love to claim either side of that spectrum. Yes, on one side, there's the red light of religion, the law, and the fundamentalism that has clearly defined what every single sin is, and when you've crossed the boundary into that sin, and what the punishment for that sin may or may not be, and what may or may not happen to you if you don't ask for forgiveness at the right time for that sin. It is a rigid but safe way to live, but is also dead. And on the other side, there is this blue light of rebellion that says religions are designed by powerful men to just control you. You don't need rules. You have your own conscience. Do whatever you think is right. Be whoever you are, and your truth is as good as anyone else's truth. Go be free and be yourself. And the world tells us we have to pick a side between one of those two. Either you're a legalist or a libertine. Or maybe we try to compromise and we find that green light that's in between, where we follow some of the rules some of the time when it makes sense to us, and we sort of make our own all-you-can-eat buffet of religion. That one doesn't appeal to me all that much. Because Jesus refuses to play by that game. He steps into the middle of that debate and flashes a color that the world hasn't seen before. He says, don't think that I came to abolish the law or to enforce it to the letter. I came to fulfill it, to create a bridge between impossibilities that holds both without denying either. This is the Magenta miracle that Jesus brings to us. The paradox of the kingdom is that Jesus offers us a law that feels like freedom, because he doesn't give us a checklist of sins and virtues to memorize. He gives us a new heart. And when your heart is truly changed by love, you don't need a rule to tell you not to hurt your neighbor, because you're not going to do it anyway. You are fulfilling the law perfectly while living in total freedom. And that is who we are called to be. Not rule keepers, not rule breakers, but people with hearts so alive that we somehow bridge the gap between the two. We are the impossible, beautiful evidence that God is doing something new. I just had a 2-hour interview on Friday with a group of nonviolent Quaker organizers in Minneapolis. And I was so struck with how they were holding this tension, because they refused both sides of the narrative that they were handed there. That narrative that says that in order to make peace, you either need to violently rise up and overthrow the oppressor, or you need to roll over and let people walk on you and tell others to do the same to get tensions down so we can all get to the table and take our time. They refuse to meet in some disgusting middle, and instead are waging nonviolence in some of the most creative and disruptive ways that I have ever seen. I'll send a link to that episode when it comes out this week. So what do you think? If we are to be a magenta city on a hill, a people who, like Jesus, reject the binary choices given to us, what do we look like? What paradoxes are we holding? And who are we calling to this city? That is an open question.